Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of r/malicious compliance. In today's episode, the not-so-friendly local gaming store. When taking a dive on a test worked out better for everyone. Okay, I'll carry items that don't sell. Before we get started, make sure to subscribe so you will never miss a video. So let's get started. The not-so-friendly local gaming store. This might be a long one, so let me set the stage before I get to the good part. Actors. Me. Dan, the stressed but good manager. At the time juggling kids, education and store management. Usually needed 30 hours per day to do all the things he promised he'll do. Oz, the store owner, a massive know-it-all. Background. At the time when this happened, I had been unemployed several years, so when the job center gave the go-ahead for the chance at a government-paid intern one spot at the local gaming store, I jumped on it with gusto with the hopes of one day working full-time with my hobby. ACT1 First Contact. Monday morning, and I was as giddy as can be when I locked up my bike next to the gaming store, had already filled with ideas about how this was the start of a long and glorious career working with my beloved hobby. Oz quickly greets me, dumps over onboarding responsibility to Dan, and then promptly rushes out to catch a flight to a big board game convention in Germany. After a slightly confused welcome aboard spiel from Dan, he introduces me to the back area consisting of storage, a small office, and an even smaller kitchen. After the 5-cent tour, Dan finds out that the store is out of intern shirts and the store owner hasn't put them on backorder, so I'm given a company-branded work shirt with a temporary handwritten badge that says intern pinned to the front pocket as a stopgap solution and told what's expected of me. This includes sweeping and dusting the store every morning, restock the shelves, assist customers, and if all those have been checked off, paint the store's supply of loner wargaming terrain. This will be important later on. ACT2 The troubles begin. 1 week later. Oz, what do you think you are doing? That area is employees only. I look up from behind the counter where he's been helping Dan tally boxes of 100+ mixed dice to see Oz march up to the counter, finger pointing square at me and looking like I just killed his pet hamster in front of him. Me, I'm helping the manager tally these dice so he dash. Oz, I said employees only. You are not an employee. Me, okay. Hey Dan, can I take these boxes over to the gathering table and tally them there? Dan, Sir Dash. Oz, no you cannot. Those dice are to be kept behind the counter at all times. Not wanting to make a fuss and maybe ruin my hopes of working with my hobby, I put the dice boxes back in order and steps out from behind the counter. Me, how about I restock the shelves with the new games we have in the back room? Oz, the back room is employees only as well. You can't be in there without supervision. Me, I'm guessing you don't have time to supervise me while I get the things I need. Oz, no, I don't. I'm meeting the guy setting up the web store, so I have better things to do than watch you haul boxes around. Dejected, I pick up a broom and decide to sweep the floor for the 5th time that day. The web store was, according to a conversation between Oz and Dan I overheard, going to be the come-all end-all solution that would multiply the amount of customers for the store in no time flat. Oz had hired a guy part-time to set it up recently, so I scratched his behavior up to stress and moved on with my day. Fast forward 3 days. Oz, you can't wear that, those shirts are for employees only. Go change right this instant. I looked up from scrubbing off a stubborn coffee ring from one of the tables reserved for the upcoming the Gathering tournament later that day, and noticed that Oz was pointing at me and fuming with barely concealed anger. Me, I was told by Dan to wear this so customers know I'm an intern. Oz, I don't care. Those shirts are for employees only and you are not an employee. Go change. One quick shirt change later, and I am now using my regular short-sleeved summer shirt with no sign or branding to differentiate me from a generic customer as work shirt. ACT3 The end. Oz, I've gotten a lot of complaints about you from customers lately. They say you aren't professional enough. I don't want you to handle customer service anymore. For the record, this is complete bullsh*T. I know somewhere around 80% of all the people that shop at the gaming store from a local wargaming club, and no one has said anything to me about my behavior at the store, either during or after this. Me, okay, so what do you want me to do instead? I don't know. Find something to do. You know what's expected of you. Let's see, store is cleaned and dusted, floors swept, can't restock shelves, can't handle customer service, can't loiter behind the counter to learn the register. What else is there? Alright, painting terrain. Here's where the malicious compliance comes into play. I grabbed some boxes of dull sprue gray terrain pieces and the big box of paint pots and sprays. Usually it would take about 45-ish minutes to paint each piece to what is referred to as tabletop standard, a few quick coats of paint, a slather of wash to get depth and a quick dry brushing to pop what details there are, but this won't do it all. This store needs to have the best painted terrain it can possibly have. Paints are prepared, reference photos researched at great length, and every minuscule piece of mold line scoured away like it is an affront to nature itself. Now just the prep work for each piece runs up to 40 minutes without even the first layer of paint having been applied yet. I carefully thins each layer of paint to nearly the consistency of pure water, and apply each layer with utmost care before letting each piece dry for 20 minutes before applying the next layer of ultra-thin paint. Every single detail on the terrain pieces are given the full competition winner treatment. This goes on for a week, customers or no customers. My days now consists of sweeping and dusting the store, then bringing out the big box of terrain and paints, paint 2 or 3 terrain pieces for 7 hours, then clock out and go home. All the while Dan is overworked to the point of near nervous breakdown and Oz is ranting about customers being neglected and that nothing is getting done without him. Fast forward a day or so and by lunchtime I have just finished up a statue terrain piece that now looks like it could step off the board by itself. Oz, that won't do. Redo that statue. Me, why? Oz, it doesn't match the style of the other pieces. Me, you never said anything about what quality you wanted the terrain pieces painted in, so I figured I'd do my best. Oz, I don't care. Either redo it to match the rest or get out. This is new. Oz hasn't complained about any of the other pieces that I painted in the same style. Well, enough is enough. Instead of my usual grin and bear its stoicism, I get up, carefully put the paint pots back in order, and start putting away the terrain pieces. Oz, what are you doing? Me, putting back everything where it should be. Oz, I told you to repaint the statue, not put everything back. Me, you told me to redo it or get out. I'm doing that. I quit. Fast forward to current day. Dan has quit working at the gaming store, the web store is a broken piece of crap that only barely does the minimum required, and the physical store was limping along on life support even before the pandemic hit. From what I heard from Dan last time I spoke to him, a lot of wargamers stopped coming to the store to play because they thought the majority of the old terrain pieces looked like *T and figured they could do better themselves by pooling resources and setting up a gaming club. One closest I can relate it to in US terms. Essentially, the company agrees to give you work experience, and the government-run job center pays you a small wage instead of the business taking the financial hit. As a GPI you can only work certain hours and can't sub in for actual employees, but are usually treated as employees in all other ways. At the end of the intern period, usually 3 to 6 months, it is seen as good form that the company hires you unless you did something monumentally bad and or stupid during the intern period. When taking a dive on a test worked out better for everyone. When I was in college I took a class with this gem of a professor. On the first day of class he asked how many people thought they would make an A. This being a tough engineering school where AC actually was average, something like 5 students out of a class of 60 raised their hands. He then announced that's how many A's he would give out that semester. All of our tests for that class were multiple choice exams we took online. We were allowed to refer to our notes during the test, and we were allowed to study from old tests as long as we didn't refer to the old tests during the exam. Fair enough. I studied for the first test, but didn't have access to any old exams, so I did fine but not great. By the time the second exam rolled around I had made a friend who was in a fraternity that had multiple copies of old exams from this professor. We and a couple of others took advantage of the rule allowing us to study from old tests. We quickly discovered that on these 50-question tests the professor had a repertoire of about 75 questions he pulled from. On the first copy of the test we studied from, we took the time to work through the answers to make sure we understood. By the time we got to the fourth copy we could answer before we even finished reading the question. Exam time rolls around and, just as with previous years, he pulled from the same pile of questions. I think it took me 12 minutes to answer everything correctly. In hindsight, I probably should have let the clock run for a bit. We had an hour, but I went ahead and submitted it because I had other things to do. I checked in with the others I studied with the next day, and all of them had gotten 90% plus. Sweet, definitely using that plan for test 3 and the final. The next day we all received an email from the professor letting us know we were being reported to the dean for an honor code violation. He claimed he had never had anyone make better than an 80 on one of his tests before, so the fact we all made 90% plus was clear proof in his mind that we cheated. This being an engineering school, we were all nerds who were pretty scared about receiving such an email, but we agreed the best course of action was to talk to the professor before he went to the dean to tell our side of the story and see if we could sort things out. We reached out to him, and he agreed to meet with us after class. When we met with him and laid out our case, he was surprisingly receptive to our explanation. I think in reality he didn't want to go through with the hassle of reporting us to the dean. So we left the meeting feeling pretty good and agreed within our study group we would keep studying from the old tests. Well, about a week before test number 3, this guy announces to the class that because some of us had found the previous test so easy, the next one would have twice as many questions in the same amount of time. Being the cheeky sob I am, I asked him as I was leaving class what would happen if someone made a 100 on this test. God help you on the final, was his response. So we used the same approach in studying for the test, and found the same pattern of a limited set of questions. Of course, in addition to the extra questions he had promised, all of the questions on this test would be new. So while we again got to the point we had the questions and answers memorized, we tried to make sure we understood the concepts as much as possible to deal with what we expected to be his wrath. Test day comes around, and lo and behold, 87 of the questions are pulled directly from old tests. 10 are from a guest lecture where he basically pulled the question and answered directly from the slides, and 3 were filler questions like 1 + 1 = and the earth revolves around the sun, true or false. I knew I had everything right. I also knew I didn't want to screw myself and everyone else for the final. I purposely answered the filler questions incorrectly so if he looked at the results he would know what I had done. I got my 97. I never heard from the professor about that third test, but I like to think of him rage scrolling through the results. I don't remember details about the final, but do remember the format being the same as what had been announced at the beginning of the semester. My study group also worked together on a group project which we also made A's on, so if he really only gave out 5 A's that semester, we received them all. Okay, I'll carry items that don't sell. When I was in my early 20s, I was a seafood department manager for a chain grocery store. I was good at my job, motivated to do my best for the company, etc. At my first store I increased the sales and gross profit percentage within a few months. After a year I got transferred to a larger store that had tons of issues with instructions to turn things around. Within 3 months we were leading the district. After a year there I get transferred yet again with the same instructions, which is where the fun begins. This store was the smallest in the district and was barely making money. My first store averaged 12K in sales per week, my second 20K in sales. The third counter was only doing 3-4K in sales per week and was losing money. 5 different department managers had failed in trying to fix things. My first week was spent getting things organized, going over sales reports, and getting to know the type of shoppers the store had. The problem was easy to see. The company was trying to sell things that people didn't want to buy. I quickly changed what was being ordered. Since it was such a slow store, there was a lot of downtime during the day. I was ordering whole fish and marketing everything in multiple ways, whole but pre-cleaned, steaks, fillets, even the heads and bones, cutting everything myself. I also switched from fresh to frozen for high-dollar items that didn't sell well. I was keeping very detailed records in Excel spreadsheets. I was bringing in a lot less overall product, but had a much better variety that our customers actually wanted. By the end of the third month we were doing almost 6K in sales per week and my profit was again leading the district. It was something crazy like 50% when the target was 30%. More people were coming in the stores, so total sales were increasing as well. The fourth month was just as good, even though it was during our slow time, midsummer. Enter the district manager and my supervisor. Both came in to visit after seeing the reports for my third and fourth month. They had figured the third month was a fluke, and when they got the fourth month they figured I must be playing with the numbers somehow. Their first reaction was, "Wow, the department looks amazing." As I showed them what had been happening and what I had done to fix it, you could see the supervisor getting more impressed while the DM was getting mad. I finally looked at the DM and asked what was wrong. He went on a 10-minute rant about needing to carry all of the things that didn't sell and asked why I didn't have fresh flounder. I replied that when we carried it at full price we would only sell about 2 pounds per week, but would have to order 20 pounds, things came in 10-pound increments and fresh fish had to be ordered twice a week to carry it. I explained that doing things like that on a regular basis was why the department had been losing money. I also explained that I had been told by the supervisor, who was there, to fix things any way I could. The supervisor denied saying that. I was told that I was to follow the plan the company had for the district at all times, and if I ever didn't have something on the sheet or had something that wasn't on the sheet I would face disciplinary action. I asked for the instructions in writing this time and received it in the form of a written verbal warning for failure to follow instructions. Malicious Compliance Part 1. I was obviously pissed, but I did what I was told. The next month was a nightmare. The store manager, district manager, and supervisor were constantly checking on me and trying to find things to write me up for. At the end of the month we had sales just over $3,000 per week with a 2% gross profit, and thousands of dollars of fish had been thrown away when they went bad. We also were getting customer complaints about not having the items they wanted. The DM and supervisor came back in and started chewing me out. I sat patiently until I was asked if I had anything to say. I pulled out my reports that showed that I had ordered everything I was supposed to, and how much of that was being thrown away because my customers didn't want it or couldn't afford it. Things went back and forth, and I finally asked how 2 people who obviously knew nothing about marketing had reached the positions they had. Maybe a mistake, but I was young and hot-headed. This time I ended up with written warnings for insubordination and failure to follow instructions, and was told I was being demoted to clerk because I didn't know how to do my job. I challenged both through the union. Long story short, the insubordination was lowered to a verbal warning and the failure to follow instructions was completely removed since I had written proof that I was doing exactly what I was told. I was given a full-time clerk position at a different store and kept my manager pay. I ended up staying for about 8 more years before being forced out after refusing multiple promotion offers. They wanted to eliminate the full-time spot to save money, but couldn't take away my full-time. That isn't the end of the story. Malicious Compliance Part 2. The way I had been treated pissed off a lot of people at a lot of stores in the area. A lot of the same people also got worried the company would do the same to them, which sparked 2 issues. The first was almost every seafood department started following the company plan 100%. People started getting jobs with competitors as well. Over the next 2 years, seafood profits went down company-wide, which affected all other sales, and a lot of talented people had jumped ship. The company ended up closing about 1/3 of their seafood counters. They switched to pre-packed product and closed 3 slow stores altogether in attempts to increase their gross profit, not sales or actual profit, just the percentage. They are still around, but they lost a lot of market share and still struggle to keep talented employees. I no longer work any form of retail and will never go back. If you made it to the end of the video, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe and share, and we will see you in the next video.